Work comp is finance. And it's like doing business with, God rest his soul, Tony Soprano. Because you have a claim. It's like you have a fender bender in your car. You turn it in, your auto insurance is up forever. Same thing on the workers' comp. When you have a claim and you turn it in, you're going to be punished.
And I love what you said about protect your health and protect your wealth. You know, if you can't do those two things, then what are we all working for? So having a catastrophic event wipe you out that is related to insurance or lack thereof would be terrible when you're out there grinding all along and you think you're insured. It's one thing if you made the decision, but if you think you're insured and you're not. Welcome everybody to Construction MF'ers. I'm Scott Pieper, co-founder and CEO of Mobilization Funding. Today we're talking workers' comp insurance. All the things you need to know, what's going on in the industry, what you can do to be effective, where you need to know, what you need to know, how it's changing, when it's changing, and all the things about your business. I've brought an expert in workers' comp on today. His name is Duke Mills. He is the president of Work Comp Solutions. Duke, welcome.
Thank you, my friend. Scott, I really appreciate you invite me on your podcast.
Well, I appreciate you coming out. We try to give the most accurate information for our clients, customers, our network, everyone that we follow. And, you know, you and I were on a panel less than a month ago, and I learned 3 or 4 things from you in such a short period of time. And I love the way your personality is, you caring, dynamic, and it was interesting. And so in a world of not interesting things, you made it very interesting. And then I'm the king on top of that. So I'm looking forward to getting into it and diving in.
Well, look, my mom thinks I'm a bookkeeper because I'm too embarrassed to tell her I'm in the insurance business. So,
yeah. Well, you're sharp dressed and you may be a bookkeeper, but you also know workers' comp.
Scott, if I had your face, I wouldn't have to dress like this. You know, I got to work from the neck down, brother.
That's kind of you. I appreciate it.
So anyway,
tell me about yourself. How'd you get into this business? Dive right in.
It was, you know, let me just say probably 35 plus years ago. So my brother was, right? So he was in the business, and you know, we'd meet every 2 weeks because I'm from Winter Haven. So I grew up in Orange Grove in Winter Haven, right? And for those people, you know, whoever's watching this, contractors are watching it. If you've been in Florida a long time, then you remember the tile murals that Publix had on the front of all their stores. Well, my mom did those tile murals. And so, I mean, nobody knows who I am, but my mom's probably the most famous painter because of, you know, she did 200 and something stores for Publix. But anyway, my brother and I used to meet at this little breakfast joint every 2 weeks. And I was in a sales job with a company out of Miami, and he was selling insurance. And then after a year and a half, 2 years, he comes pulling in a Mercedes. And I'm
got your attention.
Yeah, geez, man. And I go, if you can do it, I definitely can do it. And that's where it all started. And I started at an agency in Lakeland, you know, 35 plus years ago. But what happened when I started there, I was the jack of all trades and master of none, right? So I sold general liability. If you need pet insurance, health insurance, bond, I did it all. And I wasn't really that good at all of it, right? But during that time in the 80s, like going into the late 80s, workers' comp rates were going up like 20, 25% a year. So when I'd go in and see a customer with a renewal, a client with a renewal, and they'd look at the rates and go, you might as well take the keys to the bill to the business. We cannot afford 25%. And that led to, dude, can you just make sure this is right? Can you just kind of drag into the details, go into the deep end of the pool and look? Now, if you do a personality profile on me, a DISC profile, I'm a high D, a high I. The S and the C, which is the analytical and the caregiving, I'm like a 1. I haven't balanced a checkbook in 30 years. So now I'm being asked to go through the detail of these mod worksheets, these classifications, and I'm finding mistakes. And now I'm not finding mistakes, because when you find a mistake, if it's been wrong, you can go back 3 years and get their money back. So now this is kind of getting me interested. So I no longer, when I pick up the phone and call somebody, if you were a plumbing contractor, and I say, Scott, look, what I used to do is, hey, I have a special program for plumbers, so, you know, insurance program. You go, no, I'm an electrician. I go, oh, we have a special program for electricians. So no longer did that matter, right? I'm now saying, let me come in and look at the workers' comp. Let me just look at it. If I find any mistakes, then you make me the agent if I get your money back. So I started that way. And nobody was doing it. And nobody focused on workers' comp because the rates were going up, but back then the commissions were next to nothing. And the guy that wrote the general liability and everything else would say, that agent would say, hey, why don't just let us do the workers' comp because it's convenient. One certificate of insurance, you know how this works.
Yeah.
And so what I had to do was then when I left this agency and I went out on my own and started Work Comp Solutions, we just did one thing. And that was focus on one line of coverage. And we had to set ourselves apart because we knew that our client, our contractor was in his ear the whole time. That other agent was chatting. Let us have it. We do the same thing, do this, right? And if that were the case, they would have gotten it. But it wasn't the case because I built a team. I always say if you build an Olympic team, you got to build it with all A players. You can't have a C player on your team and go to the Olympics.
No.
So,
but you know what I like about your story though, Duke, and you were early to learn this, and whether it happened on accident or you did it, but when you one of the things we talk about a lot is how do you become the best in the world at something? If you focus at being the best in the world at something, you can actually all of a sudden become pretty valuable, but it takes time and you have to work at it. And we are trying to do that at Mobilization Funding. But I think the way you took a very ordinary business, and that's the coolest thing about businesses, they don't have to be unique. They don't have to be brand new. You could take the same old, but just become the best at it. And then the second thing you did was you gave value first, which automatically is going to be reciprocated. And you didn't expect anything in return. Of course, you expected to find a mistake. You knew you could find one and you could get them back value. But heck, if somebody could come in and talk about insurance, get them back value, of course, why wouldn't you want to reward them with the insurance? And I'm sure you did that work for people and they probably kept their agent too, but who cares?
Sometimes
gave them value. Yeah.
That's
a great story.
It's part of it. People, they talk about, hey, you can't tell them everything. You don't want to be an educator. Well, sometimes you have to educate somebody so they know there's value. And like you said, as you start to get better is what happens, especially if you're an avid learner, if you're always looking. People look at, oh, you're the expert. I go, no, don't call me that because I know if I ever get sued, they're going to come back to that. You said I'm the student. I'm still the student because there's stuff coming in. And I was thinking about this too yesterday. When you've been around for a while, like you have, you also build a really good network of people because you don't know it all. So when you need to pick up the phone, so like the top OSHA defense attorney, one of the top 5 in the country, is out of town. It's Philip Russell with Ogletree Deacons. And a client says, I got OSHA, in my office. What do? I get Philip on the phone. You know what I mean? So it's those connections. And I think it's paid off, after we've done this for a long time, but it takes a while, to get to this point.
You want to be the guy.
You want to be, I think, we were talking about it earlier that I've been nominated as the top work comp broker in the country. And so I had to make sure that we clarified. First of all, I was just glad it wasn't the posthumous award. I'm glad I'm around if I do win it. And my office, when they were sending it out, they didn't put top in the country, they put top in the county. So in Polk County, so it's not really that big of a deal.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. Work Comp Central is the governing body that has nominated you as the best broker in the country. How do you become the best broker in the country? What is the criteria? And I think so, like for me, and I think our audience is similar, a lot of folks just think insurance is insurance and the broker is someone who sells it, right? And you try to get the best price and all insurance is the same. Well, we know, I think inherently, we subconsciously, we know that's not true. But how do you become the best broker in the world? And where is a broker valuable for someone?
Well, when I look back, because I knew when this happened, Work Comp Central was going to go, okay, let's look at your bio. What have you done? So I've always, and I've leaned, about 85% of our clients are contractors. And that's for a selfish reason. One is because their rates have always been the highest, right? So a roofer's rate is going to be higher because if they fall off a roof than a call center, people sitting at a desk taking calls on. So I always lean toward the construction industry for that reason. And the other reason is because I work well with those high D of a disc, those alpha personalities, right, of these contractors. Because there are a lot of strong, there's strong personalities. And I just think I work well inside that market. So, but like I said, I've always, like I wrote the contractor survival guide to wrap ups, OSIPs and CSIPs. And these things have been around for a long time. And the reason I wrote something is because these wrap ups, OSIPs and CSIPs, they make it look like for a subcontractor, this is utopia, insurance utopia for you. You enroll in this, we've got the insurance, you deduct it from your cost. I don't buy off on that bullshit, right? So my personality profile, when you do a profile on me, I'm extremely optimistic, but I'm also extremely skeptical, which has not always worked well. Because in business deals, partnership deals, I don't need a partner, right? But those two kind of go hand in hand. So I don't necessarily buy off on, the propaganda. So when I wrote that, it is what you subs need to look at, how they are trying to drive up your insurance costs, right? Because you're going to deduct it from your bid. So in other words, they want you to have a high experience mod. They'll say that we don't want you if you have over a 1 mod. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And I don't need to get down a rabbit hole on this because you're asking me what I do. So then I've written tons of articles, speaking engagements. We talked about doing Carmen Ciricello's construction classes, do those. Just a lot of trade stuff. We're in the FTBA, the Road Builders Association. We've been in that for several years. I work with CFOs, CPA groups. So I kind of just always network, and I want to be the resource. So if they have a client that's got a problem, let's get Duke on it.
Yeah, you want to solve it.
Let's chat about it. And when I look at the stuff that I'm working on now, so we made a little jump. So remember when I said when I started out, I was looking for mistakes, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what got me in the door. And it still gets me in the door. But I realized several years ago, about 6-7 years ago, that as workers' comp rates were going down, nobody was focusing on it. Because I'd call, if rates were going up, Scott and I called you and I go, hey, you want to talk about workers' comp? You're going, yeah, I'm going to get killed. The rates are going up 20%. Can you come look at it for me? But when they're going down, a business owner's focusing on other things. And I learned a good lesson from a fractional CFO. I had coffee with him over in Tampa. And we're talking about what I do. And he goes, Duke, when I go into a company and I look at the expense line on the P&L, if workers' comp that's not moving, that expense, and if it's going down, I don't focus on it. I look at cost of goods, I look at payroll, I look at whatever else. So you're not going to interest me at all. I'm not going to talk to you. And I go, what if I do premium recovery? What if I go in at no, if you don't get money back, then what you want to hear from me is it's perfect. That's the best thing you can ever hear from me that I have done, because I keep peeling the onion back because I want to get paid. So that's kind of where I've shifted to this model, but I've just always been very visual out there. You know what I mean? I'm always, and I like to, FAIA, the Florida Association of Independent Agents. So that's our association. I'm their work comp consultant. So if a young agent from, Apalachicola has a question about workers' comp and they call the association, then that gets sent to me. And then I try to help that young agent out. So when I give back a lot of that stuff too.
So let's dive into a couple tactical things real quick. So I'm listening to this and I hear, premium recovery. Well, who doesn't want that? How do you go about getting premium recovery? Like where are the mistakes? What is wrong? Like, how do you justify getting recovery from the insurance company from your premium. But where, like, how if someone, if they wanted to look at it, you know, reactively following up on this, but proactively moving forward, what do you need to know? What are you looking for?
So what I do is once, you know, somebody says, I want you to take a look at everything. I've got pretty much, it's really a short list, you know? So what I do is I go back because I can go back 3 years, but I go back 5 years on their experience mod worksheet. And trust me, if contractors listen to this, when I say experience mod worksheet, they know what it is, just like they know their anniversary, and it changes every year, right? So I go back 5 years, and I'll tell people, you know, sometimes a contractor will go, Duke, I've got a, you know, a 0.80 experience model, really good experience model. And I go, how do you know it's not supposed to be a 0.70? Because sometimes they fall into that comfort zone when they know they're under a 1 mod, right? But it doesn't mean it's right. So so I go back on mods, I get audit worksheets from their carrier. So when they come in and audit, now audit worksheets are one thing. The other thing are the auditor's notes, right? So I get the auditor's notes because that's kind of where you find the crazy ant in the basement. Things that they've said, they suspect, classifications they may have moved, because they never will tell you, Scott, in an audit, yeah, you're in the wrong class code. We're going to change it to the higher rate. They'll never do that. Once you get the bill, and it could have been because something that you said. So, but I go back and gather all that information. I go through a deep dive on classifications. So I'm working on one right now. So probably in the next, I'm going to become the agent before the 28th of this month. And the reason is because I've already identified a missing class code. So there's this company, I don't want to say the name of it, but they make this high density polymer piping, right? And they sell it. Sometimes they'll install it, right? And they kind of fuse this stuff together. And this stuff can be, you know, 6 feet, you know, in diameter. It's big stuff. And so they do that. So that's easy. That's the plumbing code. That's what they classify it to. But they get this stuff in and then they just resell it, right, to somebody else, and then they do it. So I was asking John, the owner, I go, do you do a lot? You sell a lot of that stuff? Yeah, we got a huge warehouse, you know, and we sell it. I go, well, you also run a retail operation. So those employees, this guy's been in business a long time. Those employees are in the plumbing code currently. That retail code is this much money. The plumbing code is this much. And what we're going to do is they've been isolated. He knows they're the same ones that are loading trucks with this stuff. Then I'm going to go back 3 years, get the money back. I'll become the agent on this stuff. So it's and that's why I go, tell me what everybody does. Let's talk about, you know, executive supervisors. That's a big term for contractors because it's highly targeted by these auditors. And those are the people that go from job site to job site. If I'm boring you, Scott, ask me another question. I did win a limbo contest about 6 years ago because I'm 5'4", you know that, right? So you want to, I got my medal here. But it's that kind of, so you have to keep drilling down and asking questions. And look, when I talk to a business owner, why not? Wouldn't you really want to know? And so now we're doing the liability audits too. So we're auditing your general liability policy, your auto policy, umbrella. We're auditing that whole. So, because I want to make money, right? So any mistake I find, and they have to get the money back before they write me a check.
You know? So tell me how are the rates in insurance now for workers' comp? Are they going up? They going down? What's happening? So
it's since 17, rates have rolled back close to 60-something%, and there's a projected 15% rate rollback next year in 2024. Okay. So business owners are going, man, that's awesome. You know, now it is awesome. So rates have been going down. But what does that mean for you, Mr. Business Owner? You think insurance companies are just going to lay back and take it? And because what surprises me, because NCCI, that's, they're the ones that come up with the rates and the classifications. They're down in Boca. And by the way, I'm on NCCI's classification committee. So when you ask me, what all do you do and how do you get involved? So anytime NCCI says we're going to introduce a new classification, in Florida, and the Department of Insurance has said, I'm going to get to the rate thing, but I want to kind of give you this kind of a little preemptive statement. The Department of Insurance says, before you make any changes or introduce anything new, we need you to run it by, at least 5 people that kind of get the work comp business. So they reached out to me. And so I'm on this task force. It doesn't mean they're going to change shit, Scott. I'm just a box they got to check off. And they've told me that, right? When I go, you're going to make these changes because I said I don't agree with them. And they're like, no, we just got to check the box. We'll make notes, in the margins for you, Duke, and then we'll turn it in. But they're not going to do it. And so a code like, salespeople in the construction business. There's not going to be any such thing anymore. Yeah. That code's going to go to 8720, and that good old rate of like 20 cents per hundred is now going to $1 and change. They're going to change your roofing salespeople, but I know of it. So we prep our clients for that. So now the rates are going. And here's why I say I'm really suspicious with the carriers, because the carriers they've been rolling back because the work comp carriers have been making a boatload of money. I mean, they're making deposits daily and how much they're making off these contractors, whatever business you're in. But 15%, they don't have those margins because these combined ratios with these carriers are probably pushing 92 to 96%, right? So the profit's the balance. So where's it going to come from? Here's where it's coming from. Carriers have been offering, they call them sliding scale dividends, safety reward dividends. So if you're a framing contractor and you're paying $50,000 a year for workers' comp, they come back and they say, Scott, if you don't have any claims, we're going to give you 20% of that money. We're sending you a check for 10 grand. Now, if you have less claims, you have some claims and you're going to get 17%. So that's what I believe we're going to see that go away. And I believe what we're going to see is it's called consent to rate, where the carrier now says, we can't make money off the new roofing rate, by the way, is going to $8. And when I first, that rate used to be $52 per hundred. Now it's going to be $8 per hundred. So the carrier, we can't make money on $8. So we're going to raise it. They call it a consent to rate. So we're going to raise it 20%. So you're going to pay. So I think we're going to see some of that. I think we're going to see a lot of it, but I don't know yet. I've already got the rates were already released. I have them for next year, but so those are the things. And I will tell you, I go back to audits. When a client has an audit, our clients, when they get the letter, from the carrier, I'm just pulling out a piece of paper here. When they get the audit letter, and I'm telling everybody that's listening to this, when you get your audit from the carrier, general liability or workers' comp, it says, dear Scott, your policy, renewed, a month ago, we're going to do your audit for last year. We need this. We're going to be at your office on September 27th, and we need you to have all of this available. You're done, dude? Where do they come off saying, I'm going to be there just anytime I decide I want to show up? So they could show up at 8 o'clock in the morning or 4:30 in the afternoon. What are you supposed to, you sit around? Wait, it's bullshit. You're the customer. And that's what I say to our clients. No, you don't do that. So what we do is we schedule the appointment. And if it's a complex audit, I'm there. If it's a new client, I'm there at the audit first time, especially if I'm making changes on codes. So now we said the audit, you want the audit first thing in the morning, 9 o'clock. Because you want it that early, because if you said something at 11, well, that auditor may get tied up somewhere and maybe not be there till 1. So you want the first audit of the morning. And what I'm suggesting now is that the client sends all the stuff in advance. I'm just talking about the 941s, right? Send your payroll records, send your certificates from your subs, send all. send all that in first. We typically say, they send it to us first, so we just verify everything's good. And then we forward it. And what that reason we do that is because now the auditor can load all that stuff in at home. So then when they get to your office, Scott, they're going to go, okay, I just have a couple of questions. Boom. Because think about your staff person, your bookkeeper, your controller, your CFO get tied up for 3 hours on this stuff. It's expensive. But it's just about taking control. Loss control visits. I did a post yesterday on LinkedIn. So a lot of times I'll attend a loss control visit. So that means the carrier's loss control rep will go visit one of my clients. So I go. I know nothing about safety, right? What I know, I've learned from carrier loss control reps, right? By the questions they're asking, what they're looking for. So as a business owner, and this is what I put in my post yesterday, if this happens to you, like, so specialty fabrication, I put this on LinkedIn yesterday, fabrication shop. They do a lot of, they're machinists, not welders. So they do SpaceX stuff. So loss control person walked around in their eye wash stations. The bottles were kind of halfway filled, right? So she said, those bottles are supposed to be filled. So that moment, they filled it, took a picture of it, right? Sent it to me. And here's what, this is why this is important. They corrected it. And if you can't correct something, something simple as that, or they're saying you need a fall protection program, then I send them the fall protection program. I go, here's the safety meeting topic. I want you to do it. I need your sign-off sheets. So I send that back to the loss control person. So they're going, okay, they've done it. But more importantly, it goes to the insurance underwriter, right? So these are the people that are going to price it for your renewal. And boom, it's off their radar. If it hasn't been completed, it's going to create
open. Yeah, open items are going to cost you.
They will. And it's something so simple, right? So it's just that little stuff, because time is money. So now here you are, a business owner going, I'm struggling with my renewal. I wonder why. You'll never know.
So tell me a story about one of the best instances where you went in, average size company, small, medium, large, whatever is appropriate that you would typically see, and what you're able to find out, normal business, and what you're able to save them.
So we have one, and this, I like to bring this one up because it was the agent found out we were in there, right? So they're all, we already got it done. You don't need him in there. Look, when I'm in there for premium recovery, I'm not in there to write your insurance. If that comes up and you want to talk about it, negotiate it, but I want my money first, right? So there's times we'll trade back and forth. But and I'm talking about one of the biggest agencies in the world. He's fighting back, trying to keep us out of there. But it was a refrigeration contractor down in Riviera Beach. And in the classification, what's interesting in the classification that he was in, and all he did was Aldi, Publix, and he just did refrigeration work, right? Not the AC work, refrigeration, but he was under the air conditioning code. Because if you read the code, air conditioning includes refrigeration. That code includes refrigeration, comma, if the refrigeration units are run off the AC unit. Now, I can't imagine Publix running their ice cream refrigeration units when the AC goes out and now everything's melting, right? They're self-contained units for the most part, right?
Right, they're not.
So that little comma and pickup, fighting with the agent, the guy's like, Duke, I'll let you go, but you got him 300,000. So that was this combination. Oh, by the way, the agent got even more involved. He said, with the carrier, the carrier knew who I was, we want NCCI to come out and do an inspection. So that means they're going to send an inspector out and they're going to go, am I right? Or was the agent right? I'm in this AC code. I show up for that. The agent never showed up. I did. And I'm sitting with this guy from Boca, and he's going through everything. And I'm like, I'm right. Yeah, I'm right. He goes, Duke, I can't tell you that. I got to take it back to we have a task force. And I'm like, I just give me a nod, right? I want to know now because I already know how much money there. And it took them about 2 weeks. They came back. We were absolutely
right. Yeah, that's
awesome.
Absolutely.
So it's just, so that'll happen sometimes, right? Where but there's times I've got some clients, I've got somebody right now that owes about 700 grand. And they're now a client, but before I was the agent, they owed this money. So I'm fighting it. So the carrier is trying to do an NCCI inspection. I won't let them because I know there were concessions made on class codes from this carrier in prior years, right? So now we're holding, because if I bring an NCCI in, once they inspect, I'll lose this deal. So I'm keeping them out. So there's times I just do what's best for the client.
So what are the best, someone doesn't know you. We have people watching this from all over the country. What are the 3-4 questions they can ask their agent that at least get them going on the right track? So maybe they don't want to switch their agent. Maybe it's their brother-in-law. Maybe it's their sister. They're not going to switch the agent. But what are the questions they can sit down, bring their agent in, and ask these 2, 3, 4 questions?
Well, one thing I would do, and I probably put it in writing, not ask. Kind of like, you've been my agent for a long time. I have 100% confidence in you. And I just want to know, in the event of a catastrophic event, happening, or something catastrophic happens, that we have coverage. Because I take it back to general liability too, and umbrella and auto coverage. I want to know that. Now, I will tell you, that's one of those things where that agent's going to squirm in his pants. He's like, holy shit. And go, look, this is not a threat. I just want to know. Because when business owners get to the point where they are now, contractors, manufacturers, they got to protect 2 things at almost all costs. You got to protect your wealth and your reputation. And then you go, what can damage that? And what can damage that, I will give you. I was on a conference call 2 days ago. I think I might have shared this with you. And this is a fabrication shop in Clearwater. And we're talking about their policy had business interruption, right? So if something happens to this shop and they've got all this product that they're doing, something happens to it, they can't do it. Will they keep getting, the insurance company keep paying, cover the fixed expenses, their profits they would have made, an extra expense, meaning get them up and running as quickly as possible. So, yeah, they have it. But it's only for a covered peril. They decided not to buy wind coverage for hurricane.
Florida.
Now, this is a steel building, right? So I'm not saying a steel building can't burn down. But I'm just saying the chances of a hurricane or a tornado touching down and blowing that place apart are a lot higher. But since they said they didn't want to pay the cost for wind, that meant they were paying for business interruption. And there wasn't going to be a covered peril, and that's what happened. So it's looking at all those gaps in coverage, and it's a big deal. And look, sometimes when you look at from a premium recovery where you make sure all the classifications are correct, is there another classification that we can look at? Because when you go look, I found $5,000. Well, that doesn't seem like it's that much for $5,000. But how about over the last 30 years you've been in business? It's a lot of money. And here's a great line, Scott, I got from a private equity guy. I'll just drop his name. His name's Tim Proven. He's one of these high-flying, Gordon Gecko, slicked hair back, Armani suits, alligator shoes. Great, great guy. And so he owns a lot of companies. So anyway, I worked on one of his companies out in California, and we found 100 grand, right? And what I mean by that is but it lowered their premium forever by 100 grand because of these changes we made. And so I'm talking to Tim about it. He goes, it's not 100 to me, Duke. He goes, it's 500. How do you figure that? He goes, I'm getting ready to sell this for 5 times EBITDA. And that 100 you put on the bottom line just made me $500,000. That's a good way to look at it.
It's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, the value of your business is significant. I mean, the savings is the savings, but if you do decide to sell, and by the way, you and I were in that room with the panel of contractors. And when you ask who intends to sell their business or would like to sell their business, probably 95% of the hands go up, right? So at some point, that's going to be valuable. Not to mention $100,000 every year for the rest of the time you own the business is certainly valuable.
It is. And look, when you look at, so you asked me the percentage. Here's the bigger, the more class codes, the more complex they are, the chances are really, really high. But another thing that when we start talking about this experience model, and this trend's been going on for 15, maybe 20 years. There are now contractors, the Skanskas of the world, the Turners, the PCLs, the Disneys, Mosaic, Duke Energy. When you're going to bid on a job, if your mod is over 1.0, you're cut. You're not gonna, and there's a lot of these third-party vendors, what's INS World. And so they have to put all their stuff on this website. And if they have over a 1 mod, they go, you're an unsafe contractor and you can't bid on this project.
That's
so, yeah. So now protecting wealth and reputation. So I think I shared this with you before. This contractor was out at Mosaic, industrial painter, and his mod went to a 106. And he's doing about $5 million a year in maintenance. Gone.
Oof. Duke, if there's one thing that you wish contractors did or knew, what is it?
Here's what I really, it's going to get to the claims, the injury. So at the end of the day, work comp is not insurance. Work comp is financing. And it's like doing business with, God rest his soul, Tony Soprano. Because you have a claim. It's like you have a fender bender in your car. You turn it in, your auto insurance is up forever. Same thing on the workers' comp. When you have a claim and you turn it in, you're going to be punished. And a typical claim, this is like a lost time claim, like a $10,000 claim that gets paid, and that's a lost time claim, will cost a business about 22 grand over the 3 years it stays in. You'd pay for it if you knew, right? Now, insurance carriers they will tell you, you turn everything into us, we want to see it. But what I'm telling you, I tell it to a contractor is, first of all, we've got to make sure that those predators, those people with a sense of entitlement that you already have working for you and you just don't know yet, or you're getting ready to hire, we have to find a way to weed them out. So one thing with our clients, what we do is we give them a medical questionnaire. Now, this is fit for duty. So I'm going to sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. So now that employer, when I'm hiring you, Scott, and you fill out the application and I go, look, everything looks good, Scott. So I'm making a conditional job offer. So fill out this medical questionnaire. Then I need you to go get a drug test or whatever these steps you go through. So you can ask anything. I can go, Scott, have you ever filed a work comp claim? Have you ever hurt your back? You ever hurt your knees? It's all because, I'm an excavation contractor. You're going to be in a ditch, bending, kneeling, all day. So you let's just say you put, nope, never filed a work comp claim. Well, then I share a website, and it's public, that I can now go online to see if you've ever filed a litigated work comp claim. And if I say, oh, geez, Scott's filed 4 back claims in the last 6 years, I'm number 5. Yeah. You don't want to buy a claim, right? And so the answer is, now you say that, we found a better offer. But now let's go back to this example. Yeah, I filed a work comp, I hurt my back. Okay. So my question then would be, Scott, you hurt your back. What happened? I had back surgery. When did you have back surgery? 90 days ago. Then we need something from the doctor that says you're going to be, you're doing that, because we don't want you to get re-injured. But if it's 10 years ago, people get hurt at work.
Right. Yeah, no big deal.
So what you're trying to do is kind of box out those people to find out, if maybe they have a sense of entitlement, right? Then when somebody gets hurt, the key is, I call it the three-legged bar stool. Here's who has to be involved. You, Mr. Contractor, I need you, us, and the carrier adjusters. And if one of us doesn't do our part, it's not going to go well. So we have to hold our end up, meaning, so we're doing, we have somebody in our office that handles claims. So they're always talking to these adjusters. What's going on? But we're asking questions like, instead of the characteristics of the injury, right? He hurt his knee, hurt his back. We want to know the characteristics of the individual. Because I've seen guys, 70 years old, jack their back out and they're back to work the next day. And I've seen a 22-year-old say he hurt his finger and he's already got Johnny Morgan on the phone suing. Yeah, so it's about, let's stay really, really focused. So that's what I would say. You got to protect the experience mod. You got to, all those kind of things. But get your arms around those claims as quickly as possible. Got to get a strategy on them. And so that's what we do in our office. So, I talk about the audit stuff, but more importantly, we try to, we've got a claims team that, keeps an eye on this stuff.
Nice.
So that's
Duke, I've loved hearing about it, man. I'm excited people are going to be able to grab a couple of these 4 or 5 tidbits from you. My biggest takeaways are, I think, ask the right questions. What I've heard you say is ask the right questions. Know that you can very likely have an opportunity at recovery. It's so much so that you, as an expert, take that on a contingency. You don't do that as a fee for service. You do that as an opportunity for them and that you'll share in if you find something. And it's a complex world. Find an expert. Not everybody can be great at everything. So don't be the jack of all trades. Find the agent that can really specialize and focus for you on workers' comp, because it is a huge line item increase. It actually can. And I love what you said about protect your health and protect your wealth. If you can't do those two things, then what are we all working for? So having a catastrophic event wipe you out that is related to insurance or lack thereof would be terrible when you're out there grinding all along and you think you're insured. It's one thing if you made the decision, but if you think you're insured and you're not. So those are my biggest takeaways. And I just really appreciate you coming on here and explaining that for everybody, especially in such a way you did. Thank you. Well, Duke, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate you putting us on. I appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate you putting all this knowledge and information out there. We went through our key takeaways. And how can people find you? Where can people locate with you, get with you if they want to call you, get your services, or just pick your brain? What's the best way for people to find you?
So I usually just give people my cell phone, right? So I'll just say it, then I'll tell you how to find me.
We'll put all your information in the notes too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, and this is important about our office. When we're there at lunch, you got a lot of these. We don't use a recording. Like push this. I don't subscribe to that. Somebody always answers the phone, and we're a little niche company, right? So when I take everybody to lunch, there's nobody at the office. If you call my office, somebody in the office gets it. It rings through, and they answer Work Comp Solutions. And if you go, look, I need a certificate now because I can't get paid. We can do it. Our software, we can do it from the phone. So, and I tell people, look, I'm an early riser, right? So I get up like 4:30, and I tell people, look, you can call me in the morning. But you know what? I've already jacked up on caffeine already, and I'm ADHD. So I take all the medication. So I'm shaking like a wet chihuahua right in the morning. But I go, so I'll answer the phone. But if you call me after 6 o'clock, I got my hand around a bourbon or a martini, and I will say yes to anything just to get you off the phone. But we do answer our phones, right? So weekends, because stuff happens, man. I've had clients call me and they go, look, we got a fatality. Had a guy fall 30 feet, out at Disney World. It's a true story. And called me up, a Saturday night. But we answer the phone. You're not going to voicemail because you need somebody now, to fix stuff. So, and that's because we have stayed niche. We're not all things to all people. So
what about on LinkedIn, or do you have what's your LinkedIn address, and how do you
LinkedIn? Use Google, go Duke Mills LinkedIn. You'll see my stuff there. We've got workcompsolutionsfl.com. You can find our website. So So yeah, I'm you know, I think
Awesome.
it's pretty easy to, I've never tried to Google myself, but I think, I
That's
think if
scary. Maybe you try that. Maybe you try that when we get off.
yeah, I'm afraid of what I'll see. I might not win that award if they dig too deep.
Yeah, do that in a month instead. That's
I'll
right.
do that, yeah.
Well,
So
dude, thank
anyways,
you for joining us, man.
all
And
right,
I
buddy.
appreciate best of luck on the award.
Thank you.
Clearly, you are knowledgeable in work comp. You understand it. I can see why you're nominated. I hope you win the award. Please let us know if you do. And in the meantime, if you guys have liked this episode, if you can find value in it, share it, please pass on the information. Most importantly, take these couple tidbits, save yourselves some money, regardless of whether you call Duke or use Duke, save yourself some money in insurance premium. There's opportunities there. You know the questions to ask. You know what you can do. Use the video here that we've articulated and went through today to help you. Thank you all, and God bless you.
Thank you, my friend. See you guys.